She got stopped at the gate of the shooting range because of her faded jacket and an old rifle that looked like it came straight out of a museum. "VIP lanes don't allow the lost and confused," the receptionist said, eyes skimming her like she was refuse. One spoiled kid sneered, "They letting in mops and maintenance now?" Harper said nothing. She just pulled out her VIP pass and walked forward, through the laughter, through the mockery, until 10 perfect shots shut them all the hell up. Hawthorne Elite Range was a temple of precision, its glass and steel facade gleaming under the California sun like a polished bullet. Inside, the air was sharp with gunpowder and privilege, every lane a showcase for the ultra-wealthy, high-ranking military officers and athletic prodigies. Black marble floors reflected LED lights, and digital scoreboards glowed with names that carried power: children of senators, Olympians, tech titans. Membership here wasn't just a fee, it was a bloodline, costing more than most people's mortgages. The walls were adorned with gold-framed photos of world champions, their eyes as cold as their aim. Outside, a velvet rope separated the elite from the unworthy. And today, Harper Lane stood on the wrong side, her faded olive jacket and scuffed jeans a blasphemy against the tailored tactical gear streaming past. At 23, Harper was a quiet force, her beauty raw and unadorned. Her auburn hair was pulled into a loose braid, strands glinting like embers in the sunlight. Her hazel eyes, sharp and unflinching, held a depth that could stop a heart. She carried an old M1 Garand rifle, its woodstock worn smooth by decades, slung over her shoulder like a piece of history. Her father, Colonel Thomas Lane, had been a legendary sniper, a shadow who'd ended conflicts with a single shot, and he'd raised her on backwoods ranges, teaching her to breathe with the trigger. After his death, Harper had promised to honor his legacy, but the crowd saw only a nobody with a thrift store aesthetic, her presence an insult to their exclusivity. The receptionist, a man named Derek with a slick haircut and a sneer like a blade, blocked Harper's path at the gate. "This isn't a range for ordinary people," he said, his voice dripping contempt, loud enough to turn heads. "VIP lanes are for members, not whatever you are." He gestured at her rifle, his eyes raking her faded jacket. A kid in a $4,000 tracksuit, Connor Blake, son of a hedge fund king, leaned against a pillar, grinning. "They letting in mops and maintenance now?" he called, sparking chuckles from the group behind him. Harper's fingers brushed her VIP pass, a worn card from her father's old CO, earned through blood and loyalty. She held it out, her voice steady. "I'm a guest." Derek's smirk faltered as the scanner beeped green, but he stepped aside, muttering, "This is a mistake." The crowd parted, their laughter a gauntlet as Harper walked inside. As Harper walked through the lounge, the range's livestream feed turned into a digital gallows. Phones glowed, members posting in real time, their captions a public execution. "Had welfare shooter," one read, zooming in on her scuffed boots. "She's a joke," another posted, shared by a congressman's son. Vanessa Cole stood, her voice loud enough for the live stream to catch. "Look at her, thinking she can shoot with us," she mocked, gesturing at Harper's jacket. "This is Hawthorne, not a salvage yard." The crowd roared, their laughter a weapon, comments flooding. "Kick her out." "Fraud," a boy shouted. "Bet she stole that pass from the trash." Harper's hands stayed steady, her hazel eyes fixed forward, but her mother's face on the live stream, pale and pained, showed the weight of each word. The audience's rage surged, their fury at this coordinated cruelty a fire ready to burst. The range's interior was a cathedral of competition, its lanes stretching 50 meters under a soaring ceiling. Digital screens tracked every shot, and the low hum of ventilation mixed with the crack of gunfire. Members lounged in leather chairs, sipping $20 lattes, their rifles gleaming with custom engravings. Harper's jacket drew stares like a crack in a mirror. A trust fund kid, Tyler Reed, sprawled in a chair, his $12,000 rifle propped beside him. "Even cleaning staff gets access now, huh?" he snorted, his voice carrying across the lounge. His clique, a pack of prep school heirs, laughed, their eyes slicing Harper's jeans. "What's she gonna do, polish the targets?" one quipped, tossing a spent casing at her feet. Harper stepped over it, her face serene, her silence a shield against their venom. A range instructor, Professor Laura Vance, stepped forward from the coaching staff, her tailored blazer a stark contrast to Harper's faded jacket. "This is highly irregular," she said, her voice dripping with false pity, loud enough for the lounge to hear. "Hawthorne is for trained professionals, not charity cases with museum pieces." She gestured at Harper's rifle, her diamond earrings glinting. "Your presence here undermines our standards. Perhaps a community range would suit you better." The crowd murmured approval, some clapping, their elitism a wall around Harper. "Leave now and we'll forget this embarrassment," Vance added, her words a deliberate cut. Harper's braids swayed as she adjusted her rifle, her hazel eyes flickering with buried resolve, but her face remained serene. Her mother's hands clenched on the live stream, the instructor's condescension, a betrayal of Harper's right to be there. The audience's anger boiled, their outrage at this authority-driven attack a burning wound. In the VIP lane, Vanessa Cole, a sharpshooter with $6,000 custom sniper optics and a modeling contract, adjusted her scope, her blonde hair cascading in perfect waves. She glanced at Harper, her lip curling. "This is a training ground, not some low-budget war movie cosplay," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, amplified by the live stream mic overhead. The range's social media feed buzzed, comments flooding. "Who's this loser? Get her out!" The head coach, Colonel Raymond Pierce, a grizzled ex-Marine with a chest full of medals, stood nearby, his irritation plain. "Are you sure you even know which end of the rifle you're supposed to hold?" he barked, his tone dripping with disdain. Harper met his gaze, her hazel eyes unwavering. "I'll figure it out," she said softly, her words a quiet vow. The crowd snickered, their phones out, poised for her failure. The billionaire heir, Ethan Caldwell, was the range's golden boy, a 25-year-old with dark curls, a chiseled jaw, and eyes that could charm or burn. His black tactical gear was tailored to perfection, and his custom rifle, a $60,000 work of art, gleamed like a predator. He'd just fired a round, 9.9, 9.8, 9.7, his scores flashing on the digital board to roars of approval. He turned, spotting Harper, and his grin was a weapon. "If you beat me, I'll leave immediately," he said, his voice smooth and mocking, loud enough for the live stream. "But if I win, you're gone, janitor." The crowd erupted, their laughter a tidal wave. Ethan leaned closer, his breath warm. "No pressure, sweetheart." Harper didn't flinch. She nodded once, her silence louder than their jeers. The live stream audience seethed, their hearts with Harper, urging her to shatter their arrogance. The mockery didn't let up. As Harper set up at lane 8, Connor Blake sauntered over, his tracksuit screaming wealth. "That rifle's a fossil," he sneered, his voice carrying to the live stream. "Bet it falls apart before you fire." He flicked a coffee stirrer at her feet, grinning. "Pick it up, maintenance girl." The crowd laughed, their phones recording, captions forming. "Hat range trash." Vanessa adjusted her optics, her voice cutting. "You're embarrassing yourself, hun. Go home before you shoot your foot off." Coach Pierce stepped closer, his clipboard raised like a gavel. "This is an elite facility," he said, his tone patronizing. "We don't have time for amateurs with relics." Harper's hands moved with quiet precision, loading her rifle, her face a mask of calm. Her mother's face, watching the live stream from a hospital bed, crumpled, each insult a wound to her daughter's pride. The range's social media feed was a battlefield, posts piling on. "Scrapyard shooter," one read with a close-up of Harper's faded jeans. "She's a fake," another commented, shared by a politician's daughter in the lounge. Tyler Reed stood, his voice booming. "Why's she even here? This is our range, not a soup kitchen shoot." The crowd cheered, their elitism a fortress around Harper. A girl in a designer jacket, Mia Holt, tossed a crumpled score sheet at Harper's feet, calling, "Clean that up, janitor." The paper skidded across the floor, grazing her boots, but Harper didn't pause. Her braids swayed as she checked her rifle, her hazel eyes locked on the target 50 meters out. The audience's rage burned, their fury at the mob's cruelty a fire ready to explode. The insults grew sharper as Harper stood at the lane. A retired general, now a range consultant, leaned toward Coach Pierce, his voice loud enough for the live stream. "This is what happens when you let scholarships in," he muttered, gesturing at Harper. "No breeding, no skill." The crowd murmured agreement, their phones flashing, capturing Harper's stillness. Vanessa stood, her optics glinting, and called out, "You're a walking embarrassment, girl. Leave before you make us all look bad." Connor Blake added, "Bet she's never even fired a gun." Probably stole that pass. The laughter swelled, a vicious chorus, each word a stone hurled at Harper's dignity. Her fingers brushed her rifle, a faint tremor the only sign of tension, but her face remained serene, her silence a wall against their scorn. Ethan took his turn first, his movements smooth, his rifle an extension of his will. The digital board flashed. 10, 9.9, 10. Near perfect, his grouping tight as a fist. The crowd roared, clapping, their smirks aimed at Harper. "Good luck, thrift store," Ethan called, his grin cocky, his eyes daring her to crumble. The livestream comments surged. "She's toast. No way she tops that." Harper stepped to the line, her M1 Garand steady in her hands. The crowd hushed, their phones raised, ready for her humiliation. She exhaled, her body still, her focus a laser. 50 meters out, a tiny red dot centered among hundreds of rings. The audience held their breath, their anger at her treatment a pulse in their veins. Shot 1, 10. The board chimed, a soft ping that sliced the silence. Murmurs rippled. "Lucky shot," Tyler scoffed, crossing his arms. Harper didn't blink. Shot 2, 10. The ping came again, sharper now. Vanessa's optics slipped, her smirk fading. Shot 3, 10. The range's congratulatory melody played, a rare chime for 3 perfect shots in a row. The crowd froze, their laughter dying. "Beginner's luck," Connor muttered, but his voice cracked. Harper's face remained calm, her hazel eyes locked on the target. The livestream audience leaned closer, their hearts pounding, sensing a storm brewing. Shot 4, 10. The melody played again, louder, insistent. Coach Pierce's clipboard trembled in his hands. Shot 5, 10. A headset clattered to the floor, dropped by a stunned athlete. Shot 6, 10. The range was a graveyard, every eye on Harper, her faded jacket a beacon under the lights. Ethan's grin was gone, his jaw tight, his eyes narrowing. The live stream exploded. "Who is this girl? This is insane!" Harper's braids swayed as she adjusted her grip, her movements precise, almost sacred. The audience's anger turned to awe, their faith in her growing with each shot. Shot 7, 10. The melody was a hymn now, echoing off the steel walls. Tyler's face paled, his bravado crumbling. Shot 8, 10. Vanessa ripped off her optics, her hands shaking. Shot 9, 10. The crowd was silent, their phones lowered, their mockery a distant memory. Shot 10. Perfect center. Overlapping the first bullet, not a millimeter off. The board flashed a new record, 100 x 100. The melody played one final time, triumphant, as the system announced, "Facility record broken." Harper lowered her rifle, her breath steady, her hazel eyes sweeping the room. The audience roared, their hearts soaring, her triumph a blaze that burned away their scorn. She turned, calm, dead steady, and spoke, her voice soft but piercing. "My father taught me to shoot when I was 6, she said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. "He was the #1 sniper in his unit, while you were still learning how to double-click a mouse." The crowd parted, their heads bowed, their earlier cruelty a weight they couldn't shake. Coach Pierce, the ex-Marine, rose from his chair, his eyes shining with respect. He began to clap, slow and deliberate, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, others joined, the applause swelling, a tide of reckoning. Ethan stood frozen, his mouth twitching, his heart stumbling as he saw her smile. Just a flicker, but enough to unravel him. Ethan Caldwell stood rooted, his once cocky grin replaced by a flush of shame as Harper's perfect 100-100 glowed on the board. Her smile, faint but radiant, caught him like a spark, his heart tripping over itself. I was an idiot," he said, his voice cracking, loud enough for the live stream to catch. "You're not just better. You're untouchable." The crowd's silence was heavy, their earlier jeers now a collective wound. Ethan's eyes, once sharp with arrogance, softened, tracing Harper's calm poise, her faded jacket now a badge of honor. The live stream comments shifted. "He's done." "She's a queen!" Coach Pierce nodded, his voice booming. "Mr. Caldwell, your scores are no longer the standard. Step aside." Ethan's shoulders slumped, but his gaze lingered on Harper, her smile a quiet fire that lit something new in him. The audience cheered, their hearts soaring as Ethan's fall and Harper's rise intertwined, her triumph a blade that cut through his pride. Ethan's face burned, his 10s and 9.9s now a public humiliation. He'd mocked her, challenged her, and lost in front of everyone. The live stream captured his pale shock, comments flooding. She destroyed him. Harper legend. He stepped forward, his voice low, almost reverent. I was wrong, he said, his eyes searching hers. You're incredible. Harper nodded, her smile faint but warm, a spark that caught him off guard. The crowd watched, their silence a canvas for her victory. Coach Pierce approached, his voice gruff but proud. That was the finest shooting I've seen in 40 years, he said. Your father's legacy lives in you. Harper's eyes softened, her promise kept, her mission complete. The range's director, General Marcus Tate, stepped forward, his silver hair catching the LED lights, his voice resonant across the lanes. Harper Lane has redefined excellence, he declared, his words broadcast to the live stream. Her record of 100-100 is now the benchmark for Hawthorne. He turned to the staff, his gaze stern. Those who mocked her, Derek, Professor Vance, face suspension pending review. Standards here are about skill, not status. The crowd gasped, the guilty shrinking, their arrogance crumbling. Tate raised a hand, unveiling a digital plaque on the screen. Harper Lane, record holder. Harper stood tall, her smile a quiet glow, catching Ethan's eye again, his heart racing at her grace. The live stream audience roared, their applause echoing online, #Harper Lane trending as a symbol of truth. The audience's hearts swelled, Harper's victory a permanent mark on the range's legacy. The range's hierarchy crumbled in that moment. Connor Blake slunk to the lounge, his tracksuit no shield against the whispers. She owned him. Vanessa packed her gear, her modeling contract suddenly fragile, her arrogance a memory. Tyler's boasts died in his throat, his rifle untouched, his click avoiding his gaze. The live stream trended globally, #Harper Lane flooding social media, her 10 shots a myth in the making. The general who'd mocked her breeding stood, his face red, and muttered an apology, his words lost in the applause. Mia Holt, the score sheet tosser, slipped out, her designer jacket no armor against the shame. The range's elite were humbled, their exclusivity shattered by a girl with a faded rifle. Ethan lingered, his cockiness replaced by curiosity, then awe. He approached Harper later as the crowd thinned, his voice soft. Can we talk? I owe you everything. Harper's smile grew, her hazel eyes meeting his, and she nodded, a new chapter dawning. As the applause faded, Ethan approached Harper, his usual swagger gone, replaced by a quiet intensity. I don't deserve your time, he said, his voice low, his eyes locked on her smile, that faint, radiant curve that had undone him. But I'd be a fool not to try. You're not just a shooter, you're a force. The crowd watched, their silence a canvas for his vulnerability, the live stream capturing every word. He's in love. Harper's hazel eyes met his, her smile deepening, a spark that lit his world. Coffee's a start, she said, her voice soft but warm, a bridge between them. The range's staff paused, their respect for Harper now a given, her record a new North Star. Ethan's heart raced, her smile the moment he'd fallen, the beginning of something unstoppable. The audience's hearts soared, their satisfaction complete as Harper's triumph sparked love, her victory a legend sealed in 10 perfect shots. The range's staff updated the leaderboard, Harper's name now etched at the top, a permanent rebuke to their scorn. The crowd, once a wall of scorn, now stood in awe, their phones lowered, their earlier cruelty a bitter memory. A young athlete, previously silent, stepped forward, her voice trembling. I was wrong to laugh, she said, her eyes on Harper. You're what this range should be. Others nodded, their applause swelling, a tide of respect that drowned their past insults. Harper's smile, soft but piercing, caught Ethan's gaze again, his heart lurching as he saw her strength in its quiet glow. The live stream captured the shift, comments flooding. She changed everything. #Harper inspires. Even the general who'd mocked her breeding clapped, his face red with shame, his earlier words now dust. Harper stood serene, her faded jacket a symbol of victory, her triumph reshaping the range's soul. The audience's hearts thundered, their anger transformed into pride. Harper's skill a beacon for all who'd been overlooked. The livestream audience chanted her name, their anger transformed into triumph, her victory a beacon for the overlooked. 1 month later, Harper and Ethan were dating, their bond forged in the crucible of that day. Ethan, once a prince of privilege, learned to see the world through Harper's eyes, strength earned, not bought. 3 months later, he proposed, the ring simple but perfect, like her. They married in a quiet ceremony, the range's plaque now reading, Harper Lane, record holder 100-100. Hawthorne Elite Range was no longer just for the elite, it was hers, reshaped by a girl in faded jeans who'd silenced them all with 10 perfect shots. Harper Lane didn't need their praise. She was the bullet that hit the mark. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. And tell us in the comments, what would you have said after that 10th shot?